parts. Oh my gosh.
Illegal.
Donald Trump spent a lot of quality time with my wife. What?
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Help! Help! I'm being repressed!
That's too much, man!
Come on!
That's hot.
I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
unburdened by what has been. See what can be, unburdened by what has been. We see what can be, unburdened by what has been. To see America as it can be, unburdened by what has
Well, here we are once again. Floating somewhere between Earth and that never-ending void. Got a hell of a lot to talk about today. It's gonna be all election day, all day. That's it. Gonna be talking all sorts of stuff that's been leading up to the election, as well as checking out live coverage at election places, polling places, things like that. So, with all that said, we better get right to it. Don't forget to buckle up those seatbelts, Space Fams. This journey might get dangerous. Good to see all you folks. I'm just gonna go over regular chat and people that I can see right now. I've had to reload my window a couple times, but good to see you all. Moa Noah, Disco Wolf, Lady Badash, Mididopters, Omega Star, Donald Duck. I think I see Mozzie in the chat. Who else? Sasha G. And Mrs. Jen's Cats. There's probably some more people in the shorts chat, I would assume. And hello to you as well. But I can't see you right now. I see Morbius Dragon, actually, Shade Dragon, and Orb Boomer, but unfortunately, not all refreshed properly. Anyway, let's get right to it. We got a lot to talk about. Elections already underway, officially, in full. If you haven't voted, better get it out there. Vote. Alright. Well, Space Fams, let's talk the election. But first, let's talk election stress. In ways people have been dealing with it for centuries. And it's muted. That's good. Good start. Good start, Maggie. Hold on, please. There we go. Nope. Excuse me. Nope. Yep. Okay. And that's not full volume. We want full volume. We want the full experience, please. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie McGrath, editor of Forbes Women. Election cakes date back to the 1700s. Even though tomorrow, everyday bakers will be baking as they cope with election anxiety, including this reporter. Joining us now to talk about the cultural history here and the culinary history is Casey Highsmith.
Any guesses on what Maggie is currently baking? I mean, she just claimed that she will be one of those very bakers baking out of sheer election anxiety. Me personally, croissants. I think she's a croissant woman. I could be wrong. I'd love to hear what chat thinks. Let's get back.
Talk about the cultural history here and the culinary history is Casey Highsmith. She's a food scholar and American studies expert who's done a lot of writing on the subject of election cakes. Casey, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So every year around election time, people talk about stress eating, stress baking, but there is a history here, a tradition, if you will, that really goes back. Where did election cakes get their start?
So they date back to the earliest elections of the colonial days. They were something that were actually brought over, with our colonial forefathers and foremothers, I guess. And so they have their roots in early English cakes as well. And they were simply a cake that was baked to feed a lot of people. Elections were a little different back in that time, and everybody would travel from their property, which everyone was a little more spread out. Travel took more time. And so it was a bigger adventure to go places. And our elections were, polling places were an exciting place to be. And so women would bake these cakes to feed all the men who came to vote, and sometimes their families that they brought along with them. And sometimes people would extend their stays because
Illegal.
Remember when, who was it? Didn't the Trump administration try to make it illegal to bring food to polling places? And, like, give water to people? But yeah, there you go, people. You could bake cakes to cut down on that election stress. All right. Is it lagging again? Why is it doing this to us? It's so rude.
How rude.
Wow. I'm not even going to repeat that statement. It's very rude. All right. All right. Now let's look at some of the preparations at the Capitol ahead of Election Day that have been ongoing for the last few days. That really, I can only describe as fortifications.
More businesses near the White House are boarding up ahead of Election Day. This is video of the businesses along 17th Street and Pennsylvania Ave in Northwest. That's where our Rafael Sanchez Cruz is with what the community is saying about these extra security measures.
Yeah, we're on 17th Street, just a block away from the White House. And as you can see, some businesses in the area have started to board up. But tonight, D.C. police tells us there are no credible threats to the district ahead of the election.
I go to school here.
As a D.C. student who works downtown, Baya Guetta says she's concerned of what could happen after the election.
Well, hoping for the best, scared of what's going to happen after, because I know there's going to be equal uproar on both sides.
It's a concern that Councilmember Brooke Pinto mentioned last week during a meeting with Mayor Myrtle Bowser.
Sounds like Donald Trump.
We're already getting requests from
good people on both sides.
I don't think they should be boarding up their buildings.
Despite the mayor's advice, just a block from the White House, buildings have boarded up their storefronts.
I don't think if I had a business on 17th Street that I would board it up. I would have some faith that people aren't going to just go wild.
Tony Barclay says he's hoping for calm after such a chaotic election cycle.
This is not the end.
Tony Barclays. It's quite a name, sir.
You in?
So this is around the Capitol building itself, I believe.
Hello.
You can see they're taking shit seriously. It's not even January. This is pre-no.
Here in our
This is all happening
preparations are
today.
for what could be a very tense few weeks.
Now we already know
Clearly
we
Democrats
likely won't
taking
have the
security more
results from
seriously
the
than
election for
Republicans
days,
did
and that means security in the district will
2020.
continue well past tomorrow. Jacqueline Quinn joins us now live outside the White House this morning with the story. And Jacqueline, those security measures have a big impact on the people in our area and local businesses as well.
Yeah, if you're coming down here, you're sure to see them just even around town. But here they are. This is the fencing that's quite high. It's designed for people not to be able to scale it. It's really surrounding the perimeter of Lafayette Square right now. And if you're familiar, Lafayette Square just right across from the White House. And we can't see it because of the fencing and some of the scaffolding that has just gone on over there on Pennsylvania Avenue. And the concern around here is that not that there is a threat at the time right now, but just that there could be political unrest, as we've seen with the January 6th Capitol riots. And again, it's not just in this area. It is something that people are thinking about just around this area here. So some of the businesses that we have seen, they've boarded up their shops just as a precaution. Fencing has also gone up around Vice President Kamala Harris's home in Northwest D.C. near the Naval Observatory. This protection also extends down in Florida at former President Donald Trump's house. Again, we want to stress that there is no threat at this time, but law enforcement plans to be ready.
We will not talk.
Yeah. Definitely taking it more serious than Donald Trump did.
Election Eve in Washington, D.C., and some businesses are taking security into their own hands, choosing to board up their windows in case there are any disruptions in the city on Election Day and the days following.
The chief of police says there's no need for alarm right now, but is asking everyone to remain vigilant.
At the White House, there's fencing around the entire perimeter, but it's been in place for weeks now. The park outside the White House is still open, but that's likely to close from Election Day.
Now, these are just precautions, although we are expecting to see more of a police presence Election Day onwards. And the police chief says they won't stand for any kind of disruption or unlawful behavior.
Further in, there's a stage being built. That's for the inauguration parade that takes place in January. Right in front of the White House is BLM Plaza, or Black Lives Matter Plaza. In 2020, this was the site of numerous protests and rallies in the months leading up to the election.
This time, it's pretty calm here. The main difference is that in 2020, Donald Trump was the incumbent president. He was in the White House. It was a divisive presidency, and there was a need for more security.
It's not 1,000 now. It's always been 1,000. But at one point, I don't know exactly when YouTube decided, but they did decide to make people in certain countries eligible to monetize early at 500 in a partial monetization where you get channel subs, you know, like memberships and like membership perks, like donation buttons and stuff like that on your site, but you like on your channel, but you still can't actually get ad revenue until 1,000. So that's the distinction people are confused on, I think, because in some countries that doesn't even exist. But like for instance, like in the United States, you can at 500. Okay, let's keep this moving. Let's look at this. Everybody remember a little person by the name of Tulsi Gabbard? She's been doing a lot of stumping for Trumping.
Just explain,
and
what is your view of
this
this
a few years
president?
ago.
What do you see as his worst wrongdoing since he's been in office?
Look, there is no question in my mind that Donald Trump is unfit to
It's
serve
on
as
our own
President
channel.
Commander-in-Chief. I've said this over and over again.
Like, I'm not
am
like
running for president.
You know, like I didn't like go digging for this. This is on Tulsi Gabbard's own channel from 4 years ago. The Tulsi Gabbard YouTube channel.
Look, there is no question in my mind that Donald Trump is unfit to serve as President Commander-in-Chief. I've said this over and over again. I am running for president to defeat him for that reason. He has made many decisions that are counter to the best interests of the American people, our country, and our national security. Look, he launched an illegal and unconstitutional attack, launching missiles into Syria. We don't see any of the talk in Congress about that. In fact, we saw leaders in Congress supporting him from both parties when doing that. He tore up the Iran nuclear agreement and has taken action since, step by step, to further push us.
Wow, weird. Tulsi Gabbard. A woman who's been saying so many nice things about Trump now. It was just 4 years ago saying that Donald Trump was basically a threat to democracy. He needed to be stopped. He was, you know, he had done so many bad things to the country and to the people. And it's just very weird. I'm very confused. I'm sure you're all very confused too. Yeah, this is one of my clip vids from like a month ago, I want to say.
Use the kind
Subscribe to GNN. It's a good reminder. I don't know who made that video.
So let's talk about things that he wants to do that are feeding into this concern that people like John Kelly and General Mattis and General Milley have. He said on Friday, Special Counsel Jack Smith should get thrown out of the country. He's threatened to arrest election officials who cheated. We know that he believes a lot of people cheated that did not cheat.
Yes, if you violate the law, you should be arrested. Yes.
No one disagrees with that, but he's talking
Apparently
about...
you do, based on the way you're asking the question.
No, based on the fact that he's accused people that didn't break the law of breaking the law when it comes to the election. And if you want to revisit that, I'm happy to. But Liz Cheney, he said, should be put before a war tribunal. None of that sounds fascist to you at all?
No, of course it doesn't.
Of course it doesn't.
First of all,
wow,
I don't buy
weird,
into
JD.
the premise of what you're saying, Jake, because I just on things that I know that he said, you're imputing things, you're taking words out of context, you're taking two separate conversations and pretending that they were made at the exact same time. So I'm rejecting the premise of your question. I frankly don't believe what you're saying about Donald Trump's words. If you'd like to put up a clip and actually...
Anybody want to look up imputing for me real quick? Because that's definitely not a word in the English language.
The exact same time. So I'm rejecting the premise of your question. I frankly don't believe what you're saying about Donald Trump's words. If you'd like to put up a clip
don't believe it
and actually put him in context, I think the American people would really...
It's weird that JD says that because, you know, he actually called Donald Trump a fascist at one point. It wasn't that long ago. It was when he was running for Senate. And now that he's vice presidential running mate, JD fans, he's got a very different tune. Maybe the sort of spine you might expect to have him in, or see him having in office.
That Donald Trump is a hell of a lot more reasonable than the people like Liz Cheney who would like to lie us into war. Now, Jake, we also have to remember, I mean, step back a little bit. Well, ask yourself a basic question about network integrity. You guys talked about the Russia hoax nonstop.
The FBI was investigating it. The FBI was investigating it, and so we covered them.
And so you took the words of unnamed FBI agents and put them on your network as if they were the gospel truth. You did it.
How dare you? How dare you look at the FBI? And this is hilarious from a guy who, like, you know, will take the word of a bunch of completely, like, ill-informed people as gospel. To suggest that taking the FBI word is somehow worse than the sort of people he tends to accept. I mean, it's a wild premise here.
Again and again, a viewer of your network would have believed that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin conspired in 2016. No. That was totally and preposterously false.
No.
Well, that's
what you just said is
why.
False. We covered an FBI investigation. I don't know why you want to talk about the FBI investigation.
You covered it in a way that gave credence to anonymous sources' accusations.
Blah, 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 you gave credence to it. Oh. You love the theme? Oh, that's, it's from, Wagner. It is a word? Is it a word? Are you sure? It doesn't sound like a word to me. How do you spell imputing? Impude? I-M-P... What? What comes after that for imputing? I know impeding. I know things like, impudent. But, like... What is imputing? Because he definitely said imputing. So can you spell it for me, so I can, educate myself? All right. We're just gonna move on. JD. Let's move on from JD for now. Let's look at this. This was some footage at a recent Donald Trump rally.
For 9 years, we've had the biggest rallies in history of any country. And every rally's full. You don't have any seats that are empty. You don't have anything yet. I mean, the one we had today, you missed a beauty. We could have filled that place up 20 times. I mean, that was beautiful. And the Virginia rally, did you hear about the Virginia rally? That was, Glenn Youngkin did a great job, the governor of Virginia. And they had a crowd there that was incredible. And then we came here, and we don't want to be late, but it's very hard. We when you do these things, it's very hard, and you don't mind a little bit. We weren't very late. Just a few minutes. Just a few minutes, depending on your definition of when it's going to start. But I was talking to some of the people. It's sort of, in a way it's sad, and in a way it's beautiful. I was talking to them, and I said, this is coming to an end. These rallies are coming to an end. We've been doing them, think of it, for like 9 years. We started a year before, and we've had tremendous success. In 2016, we did phenomenally. We went in, they said they gave us a 3% chance, and sort of like amazing, right? 3%. That means 97% for Crooked Hillary and 3% for me. And I was saying, well, I went to Iowa and...
Oh, imputing with a T. Well, he said it wrong, and that's what threw me the fuck off. It was like, say it right. Say what word you're actually saying. Enunciate, JD. You only have 2 letters in your name, but come on.
I had 48,000 people, and she had about 300 people. And then we went to another one in another state. We had 49,000 people. She had 243 people. And I kept saying, why are we going to lose? Why? Why are we going to lose? And we didn't lose, We ended up winning. And we ended up winning the presidency, right? And that was an exciting night. Remember how it started? It started with a bunch of fake news. Look, there they are. That's a lot of fake news.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly.
Okay. That's good. So here, if anybody's unfamiliar with who J.D. Vance is, here's a good moment for you to catch up.
Middletown, Ohio isn't much to look at. It's probably a few decades away from getting a Jamba Juice. But this forgotten town full of forgotten men and forgotten women has given us a name to remember. J.D. Vance.
I came from Middletown, Ohio. I am proud of it, and I will never forget where I came from.
But what he would forget is everything else.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
The simple fact is, he's the best president of my lifetime.
This is the daily biography of J.D. Vance, the forgetting man. You may have heard that JD doesn't think much of life in your Democrat-run cities.
Our cities are disgustingly violent.
He's great.
They're increasingly dirty, and they're increasingly unsafe to raise a family.
But to hear him tell it, growing up in small-town Ohio and Kentucky wasn't so hot either.
Uh-oh. Is it lagging?
Are a chaotic mess.
Wait, hold on.
At least one member of the family.
Are we lagging again?
Will.
I feel like we're lagging. I'm going to hold on for a second. Wait, please hold. Please hold. Just looks a little weird to me right now. I don't know why we're being repressed.
Help! Help! I'm being repressed!
And punch each other. Sometimes we'll get a job, but it won't.
How
last.
accurate do I want the poll? Aspirational voting is also allowed.
Complain about the smell of alcohol on our breath.
With his mother struggling with one or more of those tendencies, young JD was taken in by his mama.
She said, look, you're going to come and stay with me, and if anybody has a problem with it, they can talk to my gun.
Mama raised him and taught him important life lessons.
I'll never forget the time I convinced myself that I was gay. She said, don't be a f***ing idiot. How would you know that you're gay? At the time, the only thing I knew about gay men was that they preferred men to women. I disliked girls, and my best friend in the world was my buddy Bill. Finally, she asked, JD, do you want to suck? And I said,
Jesus Christ.
Then she said, you're not gay. And even if you did want to suck, that would be okay.
Whoa,
Okay,
Grandma.
Ally. See you at Pride, Mama. Mama became the most stable person in JD's life. even if she did have a bit of a homicidal streak.
Manuel came from a family that would shoot at you rather than argue with you. My mom was 12 when she saw my grandma set my grandfather on fire.
Jesus Christ.
If you don't stop
JD's family is fucked up. His grandmother lit his grandfather on fire in front of his mom or his dad. I can't, whatever. It doesn't, either way, it's fucked. Good God. You got a real weird family over there. You told me what? Are you telling me that you told me something? I don't think that's quite accurate. All right, let's go here. This was earlier. I think this was Friday, actually. Is this Friday? I think this was Friday. Donald Trump had a message for the women.
And my people told me about 4 weeks ago, I was saying, no, I want to protect the people. I want to protect the women of our country. I want to protect the women. Sir, please don't say that. Why? They said, we think it's very inappropriate for you to say. I said, why? I'm president. I want to protect the women of our country. They said. They said, sir, I just think it's inappropriate for you to say, pay these guys a lot of money. Can you believe it? I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them. I'm going to protect them from migrants coming in. I'm going to protect them from foreign countries that want to hit us with missiles and lots of other things. Remember,
protecting women who don't want to be protected, I'm pretty sure is
illegal.
If I'm not mistaken.
for 4 years we had no war other than I defeated ISIS, but I defeated ISIS and I felt like Brett Favre. I defeated ISIS in 4 weeks instead of 5 years, which they said it was going to take. Because we have a great military, we just didn't have any leadership at the top. I mean, in the office of the president, or even close to it. So I said, I'm going to defend and I'm going to protect women. I'm not going to let people go up to the suburbs or go into places where they live, whether it's suburbs or cities or farms. We're going to protect our women. At the border, we're going to protect our women. And also, we're going to protect our men and our children. We're going to protect everybody.
Right. Sure. Whether they like it or not, right? Which is weird. It's very weird. Let's go to somebody who apparently knew Trump quite well. Guy by the name of Jeffrey Epstein.
So
have you heard of him?
This? That was close to straight. So I need the dump. Just give me Donald. First, it's fun. So you probably know he had a scalp reduction because he had the same male pattern movement that we all have. He had his scalp movement, which is terrible.
He had his scalp reduced? What does that even mean?
He used to be on the
reduced?
His fake PR person. I also found it funny. I was sitting there listening to the guys from the Post talk, and Donald would say, he's a great guy. I loved working with him. And I sit there going, this is just amazing. And he'd say, Michael, come on, let's go to the office. And he'd say, tell me, what's it like in there? He'd say, do you like having sex with your wife? How often do you? He'd say, it's great. Seriously, Michael, how often do you have sex with you? Don't you want to try?
Wow.
You and I can go upstairs, or tomorrow come over. There's this girl's coming in from Los Angeles, part of the Hawaiian Tropic Hawaiian. So come over 3 o'clock.
Unintelligible. I think it sounded like you said with your cock.
You're going to have a great time. Be up here at 3 o'clock. We can go upstairs. The whole time, the attorney's been on the phone, listening, setting it up. Because he wants the story. So he has...
Jesus Christ.
You want... Because as an avoid conversation... Immediately, if not sooner. You're not going to say yes, my wife. He had a really speech to me. How would you like really unfucking... Come on, you must... you must have had a better wife, right? I said, yes. Tell me about it. And the wife's on the speakerphone listening. Donald said, I know you, well, I think you're really hot. And I know you think you're a guy. Michael is like the end of the world, the best guy on earth. You'll be married to him. You're wrong. Just listen to the next 20 minutes. And you can go with you in the office.
Sounds like they were really good pals. Let's go here now.
We've got the man with the keys here with us tonight. It's the one and only Professor Alan Lichtman. He has correctly predicted 9 of the last 10 elections. And the one he got wrong, 2000, he argues he actually got right since Al Gore beat George W. Bush in the popular vote. So exactly how does Lichtman make his predictions? Well, he says we should follow his 13 keys to the White House. They include things like incumbency and third-party candidates, state of the economy, and social unrest. If 6 or more go against the party in the White House, its candidate will lose. Fewer than 6, its candidate will win. So what are the keys saying today? Let's bring in Alan Lichtman to talk all about it. Professor Lichtman, look, your keys are pointing toward Kamala Harris. Has anything happened in the last few weeks that makes you feel more confident in your prediction?
Nothing has changed. And by the way, I didn't say I was right in 2000 because of the popular vote. I said I predicted the right president based on the intent of the voters in Florida, as I proved in my 2000.
What's incredibly annoying to me is that Alan clearly dyes his hair, but then doesn't bother to dye his beard. And it just makes... it just makes this really weird sort of dichotomy on his face of hair color, and it just throws me the fuck off.
2001 report to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, but historians will be debating 2000 forever. Nothing has changed. The biggest myth in American politics is the so-called October surprise. I've always issued my predictions before then and never changed them. In 2016, for example, we had the biggest October surprise. Donald Trump on tape bragging about sexually assaulting women, and a lot of women coming out and saying, yeah, he did that to me. Even Republicans were saying he was finished. I did not change my prediction of a Trump win, which, Laura, you can imagine did not make me very popular in 90% plus Democratic DC, where I teach at American University.
Well, you usually have a lot of butterflies ahead of an election, even if you are people getting backlash or otherwise. But you have said that this year, you say you feel like you have I think it was a flock of crows, not just butterflies, in your stomach. What makes you so anxious this time?
Well, 2 things. Number one, I have never experienced the kind of hate I've had heaped on me this time, which has made me very nervous. I've had hate that's scurrilous, vulgar, threatening, violent. Security of my family's been compromised. We've had to notify the police. We've had to fortify our home. It's been terribly upsetting. The other thing is, I believe democracy is on the line in this election.
Wait,
wrong,
is it a wig?
So be it. I think being wrong.
Is his hair a wig? That makes it even worse. It makes it even worse. He could just, I guess it makes sense that it's a wig. My point is, if it's a wig, why couldn't he just get a different color wig? It's not like he's got to be making some money from all these goddamn CNN appearances he's doing, right? Like, he can't afford a graying sort of, a more appropriate wig. You're not you're not like 90s, you're not Conan O'Brien in the 90s right now, okay? Pal, you're in your like your late 60s and you're gray as fuck. Just give in, you know? I can't personally say it, but I think the phrase usually is come home.
This is not going to discredit my system, but I think if I'm wrong, then our democracy is in very serious peril. Democracy is precious, and it can be destroyed, and it's almost always destroyed from within. And unfortunately, the trend of this century has been the decline of democracy all over the world, and I'm worried about our country.
I'm so sorry to hear, in addition to what you've described, what you have personally had to go through in simply predicting and using your keys. The fact that you get all the vitriol and the hatred is mind-boggling to me, even though I'm not politically naive to where we are right now. I'm sorry for you and your family on that point. For other intellectuals, though, you and a polling legend, Nate Silver, you've been feuding over whose prediction methods are more accurate. The fights, frankly, have gotten pretty heated. And you just mentioned you're taking a break,
really?
Taking incoming from all corners. Why do you think the climate, though, has gotten so nasty this time around?
It's Donald Trump, and I've never experienced this before Donald Trump. We've never had a candidate before who has dehumanized his political opposition, called them vermin, called them worse than the murderous dictator Kim Jong-un, who machine guns his political opponents, calling out the military against U.S. citizens. Not just criticizing Liz Cheney on her foreign policy, which would be fine, but talking about her facing 9 gun barrels shooting at her. We're saying
immediately, if not
people
sooner,
shot at the so-called fake news, the press. This is what is different. This is what we have never seen before in American politics. He said he'd be a dictator on day one, to drill, drill, drill. Well, drilling doesn't take one day. It takes months and years. And no dictator in the history of the world has ever relinquished power after being a dictator on day one. And by the way, I didn't like Trump any better in 2016 when I predicted his win. My predictions are totally nonpartisan. I predicted the 2 most conservative presidents of our time. My first prediction.
Well, there you go. Alan Lichtman, election guru, thinks Donald Trump is going to lose this election. Could be wrong. He did get the Gore election wrong, but out of, what was that? Let's go back to that list again of how many he's gotten right so far in his career. Nerd battle. That's exactly what a battle between Nate Silver and Alan Lichtman. I don't know what heated between those two means, but I assume it means, I don't know, some heavy breathing between keystrokes. Sorry. So yeah, he got all these right. Reagan, Bush, Clinton the second time, Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden, but he missed the 2000 election. That's out of 10. 1 on 10. That's a pretty good. It's a pretty good record right there. That guy's balding scalp is the silent majority. That's a good one. That's a good one. All right. Let's go here back to talking about JD Vance. This is another one of his opinions. We might have looked at this one yesterday, but our stream was so bad. We're just looking at a few of these again before we get to the current.
Hello, Senator. My name is AJ Jones, WCMU local public radio station. I have a question about foreign policy.
Sure.
This week, the Israeli parliament passed a law that would ban UNRWA, the United Nations Refugee Agency for the Palestinians. The Biden administration opposed that decision. Now, I want to give you the floor here. Would a Trump-Vance administration support Israel banning UNRWA? And as a follow-up, would you earmark any federal aid for humanitarian cause?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to listen to this, but I can't help but read this comment. I don't know if this, I mean, it's a Reddit comment, I assume, the way that this comment is phrased, but all I can think of is this comment. Someone on Reddit voted for Kanye West in a swing state. God damn it, we're lagging again? Oh, there we go, we're back. But seriously, that is hilarious to me. And you gotta assume that that would have been a Donald Trump vote. If in fact it's even real. I mean, I'm sure there's at least a couple idiots who did that, but there's no way that that vote would have gone to Kamala. You know what I mean? That one would have been a Trump vote if they had taken taken it at all seriously. All right, let's go back to JD Vance talking about the UN agency, UNRWA.
The Israeli parliament passed a law that would ban UNRWA, the United Nations Refugee Agency for the Palestinians. The Biden administration opposed that decision. Now, I want to give you the floor here. Would a Trump-Vance administration support Israel banning UNRWA? And as a follow-up, would you earmark any federal aid for humanitarian causes in Gaza as the current administration has?
So, a couple of things. First of all, of course, we want to save as many civilians, both Israeli and Palestinian, as possible. The most important way to do that is to end the war. And this is why I think that Donald J. Trump, I've never seen anything like it in American politics, where you've got the people in the United States who are a little bit more pro-Palestinian and the people in the United States who are a little bit more pro-Israel. I think they recognize, both of them, that Donald J. Trump is the best candidate because he's the...
Oh my God. So yeah, JD thinks that's this. That everybody, literally everybody on the spectrum thinks Donald Trump is better.
It's the innocent people who get caught up in the conflict who suffer the most. We cannot have an incompetent leader in the Oval Office. We can't have Kamala Harris. So to your specific question, look, my understanding about UNRWA is that you actually have explicit connections to terrorists for some of the employees on the ground there. Like, that's disgraceful. And that means that...
According to literally nothing. He just made that up. He has no evidence for that. He's just heard a bunch of right-wing psychos and the Israeli government claim this. But there is no evidence to it. There's been zero evidence given so far that was at all like condemning. If they had, the UN would have, you know, we would have definitely heard about it. Holy shit. You know, like, I mean, sure, Israel claimed this 8 months ago and then never provided anybody with evidence to back up those claims, and just sort of said, the people that we need to accept this will accept it. Already accepted it, essentially. Like, to some degree, it had already done its damage because UNRWA was forced to pull out anyway, to some degree, for months on end. And, it was, you know, damage was done regardless of the factualness of those statements. Now, let's go here. This is Donald Trump yesterday talking about bulletproof glass. Gets a little weird, a little awkward for the audience, I think.
And I'm just looking here.
I'd be a little awkward.
And I'm watching, and this has nothing to do with corruption, but it has to do with a little bit of intelligence. And I have a piece of glass over here, and I don't have a piece of glass there. And I have this piece of glass here. But all we have really over here is the fake news, right?
Whoa, why'd it just pause on me?
And to get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much, because I don't mind that. So I have a piece of glass here. And the problem with that glass is I don't look great on television when you have a 4-inch piece of glass that a howitzer can't go through. No, when you see yourself on television, you say, boy,
Like, do you see the way this guy right here with the sunglasses keeps scanning? Like, go back, watch some of the different reactions from people as he's talking about this. Like, he's talking about people getting obliterated by snipers, which happened literally at one of his recent rallies. Watch, like, this guy as he's talking about it, I feel like you can see him sort of scanning the distance. I feel like he's literally looking for snipers.
Glass here, but all we have really over here is the fake news, right? And to get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much.
Wow.
I don't mind that.
Yeah, like this guy. Like this guy right here, down here. Like his face. He's thinking, oh God, if they shot through them, it would probably hit me, wouldn't it? Like anybody who's sane sitting in this crowd right now is probably thinking stuff like that to themselves. Like, oh geez, in a way he's right, but that includes all of us. Remember when poor Corey got shot? I think we all remember Corey. Oh geez, am I sitting in the same exact seat Corey was sitting in? This guy, this guy's in the Corey seat right here. Okay, that's too soon. It's too soon for that. Even it's too soon.
When you have a 4-inch piece of glass that a howitzer can't go through. No, when you see yourself on television, you say, boy, you're really not very recognizable, to be honest with you, which is good. But here's the problem. So I have glass here, I have glass here. Now, I'm not worried about this. Look, what do I have? A couple of people. And they're friends, generally. There are a couple of people I don't like in that group, but that's like, no, but look at it.
Oh my God.
Look at it. I have nobody here. What do I need?
So yeah, this is Donald Trump yesterday, just pointing out different people that he'd be okay with getting shot. That's what he's doing here. Like, he's literally just sitting around, he's pointing out different people in the audience that he would be fine with being shot right now, in this moment. I mean, it's wild. It is wild that he did this in front of an entire audience. It's mystifying to me.
Go through. No, when you see yourself on television, you say, boy, you're really not very recognizable, to be honest with you, which is good. But here's the problem. So I have glass here, I have glass here. Now, I'm not worried about this. Look, what do I have? A couple of people. And they're friends, generally. There are a couple of people I don't like in that group, but that's like, no, but look at it. Look at it. I have nobody here. What do I need this piece? But where I think I do need a piece is here.
Yeah. And everybody in the audience right now has got to be thinking, oh yeah, there was a huge gap here, which leaves all of us exposed too. Oh boy. A woman is wearing the garbage truck jacket behind. Why? I've seen a bunch of people literally wearing garbage bags with signs saying, we're proud to be garbage. So that to me is that's tame. That's subdued compared to some of the other things I've seen recently in response to all that. Truly, the MAGA supporters embracing the garbage publicly. Real comment on where things are in this country right now. Okay, let's talk some of the polls that we're leading into today before we get into what's happening now. So let's start here with Kornacki.
While the new shock results Iowa poll from pollster Ann Selzer has been blowing up everybody's news feeds, and for good reason, it is just one poll, and we should put it in the context of what's going on more broadly in the polling as we're getting in the final polling before Election Day, including the big new poll from NBC News today. The top line of that one is that it's a tie, 49 for Harris, 49 for Trump. Even as the NBC poll shows a national deadlock, there's a couple of internal numbers that the pro-Harris side in particular is latching onto. For one, black voters in the NBC poll support Harris by a margin of 87% to 9%. In context, that's a 3-point larger margin with black voters than Biden won in 2020. Even though so much recent conversation about this campaign has centered on Harris supposedly having a slipping standing with black voters, in the NBC poll, she's doing better with black voters than Biden did. The NBC poll also shows a huge gender gap, which we're seeing in every poll, 34 points altogether. Women supporting Harris by 16, men supporting Trump by 18. Perhaps that is not surprising. On issues, Kamala Harris having a 20-point lead over Trump on the issue.
Okay, I thought we were getting Kornacki. Why do we have Rachel? Give me the knock.
At least in that Des Moines Register poll, having Harris slightly ahead. That it comes as this national poll shows Donald Trump, frankly, better positioned nationally than he finished in 2020 or 2016, and frankly, than he polled in either one of those elections, too. Our poll has it tied. Other national polls have it very much in this range of a tied race, maybe Harris by 1 or 2, maybe Trump by 1 or 2. That's a little different, and it leaves open lots of questions about what's going on in the battleground states, and perhaps outside of the battleground states. We'll get to that in a minute, but looking inside our NBC poll here, there's the question of enthusiasm, which always gets to the variable of turnout here. These are folks from our poll who rate themselves with the highest level of interest in this election. It is at 77% in our poll. You can see that is down a little bit from 2020. We had historic high turnout in 2020, 160 million voters. This number 2, when you look inside, the lowest levels of high interest are coming from non-white voters, Latino voters and black voters. Two ways to view that. Obviously, you're talking about traditionally core Democratic constituencies. That could take away from Democratic overall margins with those groups. It could also be trouble for Donald Trump, though, because polling has shown previously him expanding support with non-white voters. If he's starting to lose those potential voters to lack of interest, that could be trouble for his campaign. Then you take a look here at the issues. It really, the climate we're seeing here is what we've seen the whole election. Harris's best advantage by far on the issue of abortion, 20 points over Trump on that. Trump here with the advantage on inflation and cost of living. The other one you don't see here, the biggest Trump advantage is the border and immigration. The gender gap, I think you talked about this one, but I mean, just to put this in context, Trump leading by 18 points with men, Harris leading by 16 with women. If that's what you get, something like that, that's a gender gap of 34 points. The previous high in history was 24 points. So this would absolutely shatter any historic.
What's up, people? Why are we so split among by gender right now? What's happening? Can't we all get along? 34 points, 10 points more than the historic record. Just wild
record when it comes to the gender gap. Then there's this interesting issue of you've got an incumbent administration that Harris is a part of. Joe Biden's final approval rating in our poll is going to clock in at 41%.
Ouch.
And obviously that low approval rating is one of the reasons there were Democrats who were anxious to get Biden out of this race earlier this year. Harris, part of that administration, how much is that weighting her down here? And then Trump himself, the approval rating for a former president seeking to become a future president. In our final poll here, when we ask people retrospectively, thinking back, do you now approve or disapprove of the job Donald Trump did as president? He's up to 48%, notably higher than Biden, and this is higher than any reading we ever got in an NBC poll when Donald Trump was president. So,
yeah, people have selective memory. They only remember for whatever reason. People tend to forget the bad parts of things. I think it's because it's just easier for them to not think about, to not dwell on difficult stuff. But when it shows up in places like this, man, does it give me pause, concern about human psychology, I guess. Like, people, come on. Let's not forget what it was actually like. Just because you got a check. I know Biden didn't quite come through on the whole check. Gave you part of it, but that, come on. I mean, you cannot vote just for that one reason. I feel like that really literally is the reason that many people are still, like, have even a slightly positive view of this man. Time to wake up. We better than that check.
It has ticked up.
Getting paid more. Believe me, it'll add up.
a little bit for him. Will that be enough to put him over the top? We talk all about the difference between early election day voting, the partisan disparities. We're finding, others are finding this too. Democrats, you can expect when early vote gets reported out, especially the mail-in vote on.
Whoa, what's with that lag I'm seeing right now? I guess it could be because we're massive view spiking right now, I guess, kind of. I guess that's, I don't want to explain it away with that, but it does keep randomly, at least lag spiking along with maybe some of these view spikes. Hard to tell. Hard to tell. Okay, let's move it along. You can just be staring at all these polls all day. This came out right after that Kornacki poll. This is ABC.
Just bringing on Washington Bureau Chief Political Director Rick Klein. And Rick, one of the most remarkable things we've seen here, at least in our national poll, it basically hasn't moved since Kamala Harris got in the race.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And good morning, George. Our final poll before the election has a 3-point lead for Kamala Harris nationally, 49 to 46. That's what we showed when we published the poll yesterday. We actually stayed in the field an extra day just to see if there's any late change. Identical. The race has barely budged, as you said, for the entirety of the race. All of that said, there's been some intriguing movement late in the battleground states. The latest and last New York Times Siena polls shows kind of the reverse image of what you might expect. Harris right now very narrowly ahead in Nevada, as well as North Carolina and Georgia. Those are must-win states if you're Donald Trump, and that's a little bit of a surprise. Meanwhile, the opposite is true in some of the battleground states that Harris has to win. Right now, a tied race in Pennsylvania, a tied race in Michigan. That's problematic for the Harris campaign, and it tells you why both campaigns are nervous. They still have to defend what should be safe territory in a very close race.
So, Rick, let's break this down a little bit.
Now, we've looked at so many electoral maps.
Let's talk about the gender.
We've looked at a lot of electoral maps, and with these 4 right here, if I'm not mistaken, and the fact is I think Michigan will go for Kamala, but say we were to give all 3 of these to Donald Trump, I think that, wait, is this the tied? This might be I think this might be the tied electoral college version of the map, but there is Iowa in play as well now somehow, according to the most recent polling.
What should be safe territory in a very close race.
So, Rick, let's break this down a little bit more. Let's talk about the gender gap, because former President Trump, of course, the clear favorite among men, while Kamala Harris, big lead among women.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, that's right. All right, this is I'm sorry, we're moving on. Let's go to this. John King at CNN.
Welcome back. It is election
all of
eve,
the
and I am
MSMs.
with John King at the Magic
Can we
Wall.
get emotional support
as
characters
Kamala
today?
Harris and Donald Trump
good
will make
question.
the final pitch to voters. Don, I want to start
Suppose
with
we
a
could.
flashback. 2016, the first time Donald Trump was on any ballot. It was the day before. Here's what happened.
For 98 days, she has led the race. That's why a lot of people, the technical people, the people who do this for a living, say it's not a Brexit situation. But that's what Donald Trump is counting on. If you're behind in the polls, you can defy them with a great operation. Donald Trump in many of these places is just counting on it being this huge, come out of the woodwork.
As somebody who's watched him we all have, but I've, really studied his candidacy over the past year and a half, the ups and downs, that he's fallen off the discipline wagon. Turns out he's once again fallen off the discipline wagon, but will it matter?
Oh, so here's the 2016 flashback. This is where we were on this day in 2016, where our projections had Hillary Clinton at 268, knocking on the door of 270 electoral votes in the White House. But look at this map. We had the blue wall leaning blue on that day, right? She lost all 3 of those to Donald Trump, which is why everybody at home, be prepared for anything to happen tomorrow, in the sense that you can be leading by a little bit. But we knew there was Trump movement at the end. The question was, she had led the race for so long. Was it enough to overcome? Well, it turned out on Election Day, it was enough to overcome. So where are we now? Right? We're in a much less clear situation, right? Let me just quickly do this. In 2020, we already had Joe Biden over the top. It was pretty clear from the data that Joe Biden was going to win the 2020 election the day before the election. We still had to wait for the count because of the pandemic complexities of the election, but it was pretty clear. And then again, you had to deal with the question, is Donald Trump surprising us again in 2020? And he did not. So here's where we are now. So the vice president, it's a modest lead, but she's had a consistent lead here. Modest lead, but a consistent lead here. Right, that would get her there. This is why Pennsylvania is so important. This is why both candidates are spending so much time and have spent so much in enormous
And she's
amount
going
of
to be
money.
there the entire day.
Right,
today.
right. And she's going to the right places in
actually
terms
5
of getting
steps,
votes and stuff. Because look, if she holds these, doesn't mean she will. But she's had a modest, consistent lead in both of those states. If she holds these, that's enough. As long as she picks up Nebraska's 2nd congressional district where all the polling, so she's running strong. That's her easiest path. No path is easy. But that's the easiest path. If she doesn't win this, let's say Donald Trump wins that. How does Harris get there? Well, you have to win at least 2 more. And even these...
Okay, that's enough from John King. We can play electoral games later. I'm going to pull up an interactive map at some point when I run out of things to do, I think. But we don't need John King to break down everyone for us at this one moment. So let's just keep this moving. I'm kind of excited to see some of the live footage that I have sitting here. I have a
NBC national political correspondent Steve Kornacki is standing by at the big
Pennsylvania,
board with the final NBC News poll ahead of the election. Steve, lay it all out for us.
Well, I think it's only appropriate after this campaign of unpredictability, uncertainty. We have a tie in our final NBC News national poll here. 49 Harris, 49 Trump. We also had a tie a few weeks ago, the time before this, that we were in the poll, in the field with a poll. One thing to note about this, though, just taking a step back, is if you think to the last 2 presidential races, Donald Trump was on the ballot for the Republicans in each of those. The national polls were never this close in either one of those elections. In 2020, Joe Biden led consistently. Turned out there was a bit of a polling miss there. 2016, Hillary Clinton led consistently as well. This has been much closer all the way through this election. That Trump number, there's always that debate of where the ceiling is for Donald Trump. The Trump number has been getting higher, incrementally here, but maybe significantly in the polling this election than it's been in the past. The gender gap, this is emerging as a huge story throughout the campaign and maybe a dominant one on election night. Put this in some perspective. In our poll, among men, it's an absolute landslide for Donald Trump. He leads Harris by 18 points. Among women, it is a landslide for Harris over Trump. She leads Trump by 16. Combined 34-point gender gap. Now, we've been talking about gender gaps in presidential races going back to 1980, Reagan versus Carter. In all of that time, the highest gender gap we've ever recorded before this, 24 points. This 10 points higher if this were to actually happen in the election or anything like this, much higher than the previous record for the gender gap. Also note here, Trump is actually getting a little bit more in terms of his margin with men is a little bigger than Harris's is among women. Trump people have really emphasized their message to men, especially in the closing stages of this campaign, thinking they may be able to sort of turn the gender gap, which is traditionally understood as maybe more of a Democratic advantage, around in their favor, run up a bigger score among men than Harris does among women. But there are also some indications that Harris, we'll get to this one in a second, may be benefiting from a sort of surprise female interest. I'll get to that in one second. I did want to show this as well. The headwinds Harris is up against. Millions of dollars of ads around the issue of abortion have been in the air in Iowa. So if this is real, the other question becomes, is it state specific? Or is it something that
there will be more. I mean, I think we all know it's going to be a night of chevrons. Constant chevrons.
Important for other Midwestern states, for other states around the country. And that leads us just quickly here. This will all start filling up Tuesday night. But if that Iowa poll is something that spills over to other states, the most logical place to look would be right across the Mississippi River. Iowa and Wisconsin are like political cousins. Very heavily white states, demographically very similar. Tons of blue-collar areas that used to vote for Democrats, voted for Democrats right up through Obama, have come heavily toward Trump.
I'll try and check the Discord.
If you're seeing significant movement in Iowa that's going to spill over elsewhere, Wisconsin, a place to look there. And also there is that other question with Iowa, just are there other states outside the battleground we haven't been talking about that could give us surprises on Tuesday?
Okay. Let's go to this. I don't know if you saw this, but a giant poop emoji statue showed up at the Capitol earlier this week. Someone made a interesting montage here.
to the Capitol. I need court support.
Hold on. It's lagging. I'm just starting to realize and like notice something. I think the Office is acting like some sort of buffer scene between these things. Because I feel like the videos run better when I go back to the Office in between them. Might have to do that. Might have to remember to do that more often today. I was kind of thinking it'd be easier to just stay on the one screen all day, but if it's going to be all laggy like this, I guess I'm gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. All right, let's try this one again. Poop emoji statue at the Capitol without lag. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood.
35 to 50 be advised, Capitol Police won't advise trying to breach into the Capitol. We have a breach of the Capitol! Breach of the Capitol!
I guess it wasn't that laggy. Looks fine right now. I take it all back. I don't know what is the random lag is so annoying.
I need court support. We host the line. We host the line. All of you need to step back. All of you need to step back up to the open deck. All of you need to step back to the open deck.
They were peaceful people. These were great people. The crowd was unbelievable. And I mentioned the word love, the love in the air. I've never seen anything like it.
Said the same thing about that MSG rally. All right, let's go here to perhaps a familiar channel to many.
Come up with a good final appeal for people who are voting. I think, largely we've been making the case about voting against Trump, preventing Republicans, preventing Trump from ascending to power. Harris hasn't always made the case easy for us, particularly in light of what's happening in Gaza. So I'm going to outsource that, and then, Emma will take over in the fun half. I will say that, we're going to wait until probably end of week, if not next week, to go over the Tim Pool debate. I was there for 3 hours. I've got some pretty funny stories, and, Tim and I hit a bunch of topics that I think are going to still be relevant after the fact of this election. It wasn't, we weren't doing a lot of why you should vote for Trump or Harris per se. But John Oliver had a great closing monologue. I guess it was last night. And we'll put a link to it, the full 14 minutes, but I want to play the last 3 minutes. He addressed and used both clips of people who, couldn't bring themselves to vote for Harris because of what's happening with Gaza, and those Palestinian Americans and Arab Americans and Muslim Americans who are going to vote for Harris. And just the way that he sums up the idea of voting, what its relevance is and is not, I think is pretty poignant. So let's play this clip here.
Please, can we just have that? Can we just do that, please, guys? Come on. Can we just get out there and vote, just for the funny? All right. I am noticing it's still lagging whenever we play the videos, and I genuinely have no idea why. I wish I knew why. We're gonna figure it out at some point, why it's happening. I'll be right back. Actually, do we take a break right now? No. Well, yeah, no. I'll be right back. What the fuck? Why is the lag? It's just so rude. Why must we go through this all the time?
Minoet just cheered 300 bits.
Thank you for the donation, Moanoip. 300 bits donated by Moanoip. Thank you so much. Alright, it looks like it's back to working again. Let's get to the next video. Which is what?
Tonight, an Arizona company that's under the leadership of Mesa.
We're going to go back to that one.
Let's talk more about this now with Frank Luntz. He's a pollster and a communications strategist. All right, Frank, so we're hearing, and I know this is all about sometimes what a campaign is projecting, but the Harris campaign chair, Jen O'Malley Dillon, says they believe they have multiple pathways to 270. So is this, in your opinion, the Harris campaign projecting optimism, or do you see multiple paths as well?
They do have multiple paths, but every path goes through either Pennsylvania or Michigan. There is no way that either candidate can win without at least one of those two states. It's absolutely necessary. We are watching these accusations on the ground. It's very concerning because it tells me that we're going to have the same disruption that we had in 2020, an election that was clearly decided. There was a winner and a loser, and I'm praying that we don't have the same thing this time. But you can already see it, and I'm watching social media very carefully.
I believe that there's a very effective effort to challenge every one of these accusations. And that I'm glad that we're not talking about the polling, because the polling is now done. It's now just about the voting and the counting of the voting and the verification of that count. And so far, it doesn't appear like any of these are grounded in any kind of fact. But we know that there will be attempts at interference. And it's just a real tragedy that here's the greatest country on the face of the earth, with the greatest electoral system and the strongest democracy, and it seems to be going through this for the second election in a row.
Yeah, I share those sentiments, Frank. I do wonder what you think the most likely path is for Vice President Harris and for former President Trump to get to 270. Where do you see the likelihood of some of those states landing?
The key for Trump is the Latino vote in Arizona and Nevada. And what he said a week ago about what the comedian said at the Madison Square Garden event, the stupid comments, and the fact that they were allowed to stand may hurt Trump, probably not in other Latino communities, but clearly in the Puerto Rican community.
All right, that's enough Frank Luntz for me. I don't know about you. So I'm going to move this along. I'm trying to figure out some information on something right now. Wow, I barely even listened to what he said. I hope he didn't say anything wildly insane just now. Although with Frank Luntz, no way to know for sure. I'm just trying to read something about this like story that not just came out, but like I'm just sort of getting wind of what happened here. Interesting. When I get more of a hold on this, we'll look at this. All right, let's go here now. France 24 English from earlier today, like this morning.
With a landslide that is too big to rig.
It's a slogan Donald Trump has used repeatedly this election cycle. Insinuating that the 2020 vote was stolen from him, the Republican has urged supporters to cast their ballots in such large numbers to render the vote too big to rig. The former president has intensified preemptive warnings about election fraud in recent weeks, despite no evidence of widespread cheating. Trump is backed by the Republican Party's election integrity operation, which has filed a number of lawsuits in different states, claiming authorities are not properly monitoring rolls for eligible voters. Analysts call these zombie lawsuits because while many have been dismissed, Trump and his allies could try to point to them again after the election. One of Trump's claims is that Democrats are trying to allow migrant non-citizens to vote. Several studies have shown that non-citizen voting, which is banned under federal law, is extremely rare. In particular, Trump has zeroed in on Pennsylvania, the largest of the 7 battleground states. He's seized on a report that officials in Lancaster County were investigating up to 2,500 voter registrations for possible fraud. A local official said 17% of registration forms that had been flagged as suspicious were found to be fraudulent, and some were still being reviewed. Trump had falsely claimed that it was ballot papers and not registration forms that were being looked at. Finally, Trump has warned that if he takes office, he will prosecute those responsible for what he called rampant cheating in the 2020 vote. Judges, election officials, and even Trump's own Attorney General, William Barr, have all affirmed that there was no widespread cheating in the election.
Tonight,
All right,
an
yeah, let's look
Arizona
at this.
company that's under the leadership of Mesa's vice mayor is under scrutiny for voter registration forms.
12 News confirmed this afternoon that the group has caused problems in Maricopa County, and now there are issues in at least one other state.
12 News journalist Erica Stapleton is breaking down what we've learned.
Arizona business records indicate that Mesa Vice Mayor Francisco Heredia runs FieldCorps, the company that's accused of being involved in problematic voter registration forms. And it's not the first time the company has been under the microscope. Voter registration forms can come with complications.
This has been a thorn in the side of county recorders throughout Arizona for many years, but it has picked up in recent years.
Including the 90,000 registration forms dropped off on the October 7th registration deadline this year, according to Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer.
We had people with entire trash bags full of voter registration forms in our lobby.
Of the big batch,
40,000 approximately of those voter registration forms were, I think the charitable word would be to say they were needing attention.
Like forms that were damaged, torn, hard to read, or just flat out wrong.
Voter registration forms that tried to register Mickey Mouse, Jerry Seinfeld, Donald Duck, among others.
Now will underscore by underscore nature just cheered 400 bits.
Hey, thanks for the bits, Narwhal by Nature. Much appreciated. This is a disturbing story. And what what it turns out, and like the fact is they're talking about two different things at once. I don't like the way they're doing this story, not gonna lie. Because the fact is, what actually is going on here is, so the vice mayor of Maricopa County, who is, my understanding, appointed by the mayor themselves. I'm trying to figure out, for whatever reason, I can't figure out who the mayor of Maricopa County is right now. I'm not doing very good researching. Partially because I'm doing bad searches, and I feel like Google's search has gotten worse. But so the appointed vice mayor of the county apparently has a company that has been involved in attempting to register dead people in not just Maricopa County and Arizona, but also in Pennsylvania and potentially other states. He apparently has a company that he's using to sort of launder these efforts to apparently create some sort of problem in the election. It's unclear. I can't even figure out who this guy really is. I'm just kind of struggling at like what party he's affiliated with and like what his goals are right now, because this is sort of like pretty recent information. This is a story from early this morning, so I literally had no time to look at this. I was doing too much stuff here today, but this is something I'm gonna have to try and look into more. All right, let's keep going here.
Yeah, our interview is not until...
So this is just different videos of people going to the polls, it would seem. In different places. This is Virginia. The last one was in New York.
Thank you for coming out. Democratic nominee for Congress. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm right behind you.
Okay, let's go do this.
This guy's shaking hands on his way into the polls over here.
You can stop guessing, and now they can start counting the real votes. Voters get to have their say officially today. We are in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. This is the biggest swing county and the biggest swing state with its...
Okay, hold on, Kate. Take 2 seconds here. You have faith that at least part of the United States has this covered? Knock on wood over there, pal. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Although I guess it's not really ahead of ourselves. We are in the thick of it, aren't we? Okay. Enough of my new superstition of going back to this screen to load between videos.
You can stop guessing, and now they can start counting the real votes. Voters get to have their say officially today. We are in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. This is the biggest swing county and the biggest swing state with its 19 electoral votes. Biden won this county and won Pennsylvania 4 years ago. This time around, nearly 2 million mail-in ballots have been received across the Commonwealth. They still have time to hand
That's a
those
lot
mail
of
ballots
ballots.
in by 8 p.m. tonight.
I think it's a
Here in
record
Bucks
number,
County, more than
actually.
120,000 mail ballots have been handed in. And the mail-in
I think it might
ballot
be even
here in
more than during the
Pennsylvania,
pandemic.
The counting of them is a huge thing, especially in Philadelphia. With the rules in Pennsylvania, it can slow things down. The district attorney in Philadelphia offered a very clear warning to anyone looking to intervene, interfere, or get in the
I guess by
way
November
this
2020,
election day.
a lot of people had already
Anybody who thinks it's time to play militia,
decided
F around
it
and
was
find
over.
out. Anybody who thinks it's time to insult, to deride, to mistreat, to threaten people, F around and find out.
Illegal.
We do have the cuffs, we do have the jail cells, we do have the Philly juries, and we have the state prisons. If you're going to try to bully people...
Hear the message? I didn't hear the message. I'll read it, but ugh, that is rude.
Here to make sure they were first in line. Over to Sarah now in Battleground, Wisconsin. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, just seconds ago, a big announcement was made here in Cedarburg, Wisconsin. The 2024 polls for the election are now open. And the very first absentee ballot can now be counted. We are off to the races in what polls have predicted may be a razor-thin victory for either candidate in this state. Wisconsin is one of those so-called blue wall states. The big question this morning is, will the blue wall stand for Harris or crumble for Trump this election? The way Wisconsin counts its vote and the shift from Trump to Biden in 2020 after nearby Milwaukee was counted led Trump and his allies to begin unfounded questioning of the fairness of the election. Cedarburg, by the way, which is a picture-perfect town with an extremely high voter turnout to the tune of 90%. This city has voted
I just
Republican
realized I
for
turned this
every
down, didn't
single
I?
presidential election since
Turn this back up.
1936 until 2020, when it broke blue for Joe Biden. With its 12,000 plus voters, Biden won by just 19 votes then.
Okay, thank you. Let's go here now. This was Forbes breaking news from 3 hours ago. Apparently, Truth Social stock jumped almost 20% in the pre-election trading session. The publicly traded social media company owned mostly by former President Donald Trump rallied Tuesday on Wall Street, tacking on nearly $500 million onto the shares of Trump Media and Technology Group, traded under the ticker DJT. I can't read fast enough right now. My God, I'm moving too slow. The fucking music is messing with my brain. Okay, but yeah, Donald Trump. DJT, Donald Trump Media, Truth Social, aka Truth Central, has made him another $600 million. So that's nice for him, I suppose.
Follow the rich white man.
We made it! Finally. Election day is here, and voters are voting on this first Tuesday after the first Monday in America. Election day. At this very moment, polls opening up and down the East Coast in a presidential race that will mark an extraordinary moment in American history. The events of this year, let's put it simply, they've been stunning. Donald Trump facing a felony conviction and then an assassination attempt. Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket for just 107 days after President Joe Biden stepped aside. And the way each is framing this race, the way each talks about America, sharply illustrates the choice facing our country this morning.
I'll start giving you some beautiful things to listen to and honestly some terrible things to listen to.
Why?
After nearly a decade of politics dominated by Trump, the former president held what might have been his final campaign rally ever in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It went like this.
Kamala is, this is known. She's a very...
Why is this happening again? I see it lagging. It's totally lagging. Well, we're almost at 2 hours, so we might take a break here. Don't worry, we're not ending. Don't you worry. I think by this math, we'll be done at like 7 for the regular coverage, so you can all watch your regular shows that are probably going to be on. Like the majority report. Although I guess I could go all day. Just seems insane to do. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna pause. I don't appreciate all this lagging. Why does this screen have no problems, but the other ones do? Or like this one specifically does. Makes no sense.
Phrasing?
Not what I meant. Alright, well, I hope everybody has been enjoying the show so far. If you haven't already, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Once you've done both of those things, do consider donating and or contributing to the Galactic News Network, as we are completely funded by viewers like you. Ways to support the stream include things like Cash App, PayPal, but my favorite is Patreon, as it's really something of a symbiotic relationship where we, we both get things in this thing. You get sweet space benefits, and I get a few US dollars from you a month. That's right, only $3 US a month. That gets you access to all sorts of amazing galactic benefits. So do consider that. Alright, chat, enjoy this short space intermission, and I will be right back. Wait, people are getting their accounts banned? What the hell? I'll bet it's people reporting. I'll bet it's a bunch of assholes, like, mass reporting people for nothing. Could also be YouTube, I suppose. I don't know why they would. I mean, they do mess up some stuff from time to time. Space fams. Time to get back to it. Strange. I'm starting to notice where the lag seems to be occurring, and it genuinely is on any of the screens where the display captures are happening now. I don't know why. What I'm gonna do, I guess, is this. Switch the quality on these down just slightly. It's gonna maybe bug me. I don't know. I guess I'll find out. All right. Well, let's get back to the election coverage, people. It's time. It is time. Let's go here. Voters in Las Vegas, Nevada wait in line to cast their ballots at Allegiant Stadium. I think that's a baseball stadium? Actually, no, I think, yeah. I can't remember, honestly. Oh, no, it was the Raiders. It's the Raider Stadium, so it's a football stadium. They had no microphone in here? Just white noise? Thanks, Forbes. Oh, okay. Here's JD Vance casting his ballot in Ohio.
Good to see y'all. Appreciate you coming out to see one of the great traditions, of course, in American democracy. I, of course, voted for Donald Trump and myself. So did my wife. And
Oh, yeah?
Donald Trump spent a lot of quality time with my wife.
also for all the locals out there, we voted for Bernie Moreno for the United States Senate. And if you want the policies of Donald J. Trump in the United States Senate, then Bernie
I don't
Moreno
think we
is
do.
the only candidate in this race who I think is the candidate of peace and prosperity for the United States Senate. So I hope people will get President Trump over the finish line. I hope people here in Ohio will get Bernie Moreno over the finish line. Look, I feel good. You never know until you know, but I feel good about this race. I felt good about my own race a couple of years ago when I voted in this exact same spot. Hopefully it goes as well for President Trump and me as it went for me a couple of years ago in the state of Ohio. Well, look, I think our message is, first of all, we do expect to win, but obviously no matter who wins, half the country, as you said, is going to be at least partially disappointed. I think my attitude is the best way to heal the rift in the country is to try to govern the country as well as we can, create as much prosperity as we can for the American people, and remind our fellow Americans that we are all fundamentally on the same team, however we voted. I certainly hope you vote for Donald J. Trump today. I think that his policies are going to promote peace and prosperity for our citizens. But if you vote the wrong way, in my view, I'm still going to love you. I'm still going to treat you as a fellow citizen.
What frame rate do I use? I use 30. I think 60 is unnecessary for what I do. If I was like, doing film, right? Or if I was doing like extreme like gaming, I would do 60. I do 30. You don't know what a display capture is. It's just the way Streamlabs identifies the video that we're looking at, essentially. It just means my monitor. It's OBS language for my monitor. Okay, I'm gonna try something. I don't know if this will fix it. I'm hoping it does. I think I know what might be the problem as well. Hard to say. Hard to say with these things sometimes. But we are on to live coverage, I believe. Live look inside voting booth. Oh, wait, I was going to do this.
Okay. Okay. Hey, wait. Slow down.
Okay, this isn't a real voting booth. This is the Onion. I'm just messing with you all.
You got brown.
Of course, you can't see what people are voting for. That would be illegal. Just like this child voting right now. Clearly not allowed to vote. But it's funny. It is funny. Oh my God, Jesus is voting. I wonder who Jesus is gonna vote for. Probably Kamala.
Trump.
No. How could you, Jesus? That's it. That's it, Jesus. Wait, what is it still? Why is it still locked back here? What the fuck? It never even switched over. Hold on. This is idiotic.
Right now.
Well, I may have to end the stream and try and restart it. Unfortunately. But we're just incurring too much lag still. Like, it's clearly an improvement from where it was at earlier on a bunch of fronts. But we're still running into snags whenever I pull up video. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to end it, and I'm going to try and restart it, I guess. Because it's just moving incredibly slow. Like I said, we've clearly seen some amount of improvements here, but just not enough. Just not enough. So, we will be back, I would guess, in about 10 minutes. So, I don't know. Do what you got to do in that time. I hope you enjoyed up to this point. I love how it's running perfectly right now. Even though I closed my stream software. Still live. NBD. Well, I guess if you're all just gonna sit here, I'll give you some music to listen to. What do you want to listen to? That'll be good.
At the club.
Why does the poll only have two options? I assume that if you voted for Jill Stein, you're probably, I don't know, you're probably not using the internet.
Oh mon Dieu. Je suis tellement content que tu retracherais dans ma vie. Le retrache, mon amour. This.